You may have asked yourself, what is my purpose here? Why am I even here? Why do I exist? Why was I born? And I think that even people who, those of us who belong to Jesus, are asking the same questions here and there in life, especially when you run into a brick wall. And we want to address that in this brief time that we have here together. But I just want to jump in and start reading Scripture. Really, you can answer the questions like this in pretty much every story of the Bible. You can pull so much out of this, and we're not going to go deeply into it. If you really want to get deep into the history and everything, you can look up our Vlogitas video on Exodus 1. But I'm going to start in Exodus 1, because in the beginning of Moses, you find the answer to this question. And so in Exodus chapter 1, verse 1, it says, "These are the names of the sons of Israel, that is, Jacob, who moved to Egypt with their father, each with his family: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. In all, Jacob had 70 descendants in Egypt, including Joseph, who was already there." And so Egypt, we can look at this as symbolic of being born into the world. We're born into this world, and in this world we have trouble. Jesus said, "In the world you will have trouble, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world." And so Jesus is always our hope. But look at this as being born into the world. And so verse 6, it says, "In time, Joseph and all of his brothers died, ending that entire generation. But their descendants, the Israelites, had many children and grandchildren. In fact, they multiplied so greatly that they became extremely powerful and filled the land. Eventually, a new king came to power in Egypt who knew nothing about Joseph or what he had done. He said to his people, 'Look, the people of Israel now outnumber us and are stronger than we are. We must make a plan to keep them from growing even more. If we don't, and if war breaks out, they will join our enemies and fight against us. Then they will escape from the country.' So the Egyptians made the Israelites their slaves. They appointed brutal slave drivers over them, hoping to wear them down with crushing labor. They forced them to build the cities of Pithom and Ramesses as supply centers for the king. But the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more the Israelites multiplied and spread, and the more alarmed the Egyptians became. So the Egyptians worked the people of Israel without mercy. They made their lives bitter, forcing them to mix mortar and make bricks and do all the work in the fields. They were ruthless in all their demands." And so why are they increasing even though they are under this oppression? It's because they're God's people. Now, we don't see God speaking at this time. We don't see him showing up visually. We don't see him performing signs or miracles. We don't even see him talking to the people, like I said. So sometimes it seems that way, that God is far away. But even in this atmosphere, God is still alive and powerful, and he's moving on his people's behalf, even though they can't see him. It's the hidden hand of God. So we can see then that God does care for them. Verse 15, "Then Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, gave this order to the Hebrew midwives, Shiphrah and Puah: 'When you help the Hebrew women as they give birth, watch as they deliver. If the baby is a boy, kill him. If it is a girl, let her live.' But because the midwives feared God, they refused to obey the king's orders. They allowed the boys to live too. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives. 'Why have you done this?' he demanded. 'Why have you allowed the boys to live?' 'The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women,' the midwives replied. 'They are more vigorous and have their babies so quickly that we cannot get there in time.' So God was good to the midwives, and the Israelites continued to multiply, growing more and more powerful. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: 'Throw every newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile River, but you may let the girls live.' So there's evil that occurs in the world because of the decisions of people, but God was bringing forth life. He was multiplying people, and he multiplied the midwives because they feared God. This is the first time that we see God doing something is recorded here directly. However, it's not obvious that he was in it necessarily. We can see that he did it, but it's not obvious that he was that he told the Hebrew midwives, or that they were aware that they got families because of this. But the whole point is that God was bringing forth life, and so God brought forth your life. He brought forth my life. The Word said that God knew us in the womb before we were born. It says he knit us together in our mother's womb. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. And so we have a purpose in life. And it says in chapter 2, verse 1, about this time a man and woman from the tribe of Levi got married. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that he was a special baby and kept him hidden for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a basket made of papyrus reeds and waterproofed it with tar and pitch. She put the baby in the basket and laid it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile River. The baby's sister then stood at a distance, watching to see what would happen to him. So we might think that Moses' call is somehow more important than our call because it says here that he's a special baby. The truth is that God has put something special in all of us. You might say that, so Jesus commanded us. He told, if you've said out loud that Jesus is your Lord and you believe in your heart God's risen him from the dead, then you belong to Jesus. And Jesus told us, you will be my witnesses in the earth. Witnesses to speak the truth about what he has done for you, what he has done for me. And Jesus told Pilate before he went to the cross, for this reason I was born and came into the world, to bear witness to the truth. So some might say, well, Jesus was born so that he could go to the cross. That was his assignment. But the purpose that he told us that he was born to do was to bear witness to the truth, was to speak the truth, and he told us to do the same thing. And so the truth that he has given you, you are to speak. The truth he has given me, I am to speak. And we're all going to do it in different ways, and we're all going to have different assignments. Jesus' assignment was to go to the cross, to bear all of our sin, and then to be raised on the third day. And now he still makes intercession for us, it says, at the right hand of the Father. But we are all called to bear witness to the truth using the talents and abilities that God has given us individually. And so we might say Moses had a very special call. We all have a special call. And your call, you might not have a spectacular call, but the reason that you are here is to bear witness to the truth. That is why you are here. That is why you were born. And God cares so much about you. I was thinking about this as I was driving today, is that he cares so much about us. Each heartbeat, each time our heart beats, each breath that we take, each blink of our eyelids, each second of our life, God is in it. And God cares about us and he loves us. So yeah, we're in the world and there'll be trouble. But just because there's trouble in the world doesn't mean you don't have a reason for being here. So, continuing on here in verse 5, it says, soon Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river, and her attendants walked along the riverbank. When the princess saw the basket among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it for her. When the princess opened it, she saw the baby. The little boy was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This must be one of the Hebrew children, she said. Then the baby's sister approached the princess. Should I go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? She asked. Yes, do, the princess replied. So the girl went and called the baby's mother. Take this baby and nurse him for me, the princess told the baby's mother. I will pay you for your help. So the woman took her baby home and nursed him. Later, when the boy was older, his mother brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own. The princess named him Moses, for she explained, I lifted him out of the water. And so, there's more that we can say about this, but I want to keep this time brief because I just wanted to address this, that just because we face trials and we hit a brick wall, we come into hardship, doesn't mean that God's abandoned us. It may not look like he's around, but he's around. But we have a purpose. God breathed his life into you, into me, and he sent his son Jesus to die for us so that we can be born again into his family for his purposes and to bring the truth that he has put into our lives and tell our own story that he has given us to tell, to invite other people to come. And so if you said out loud Jesus is Lord, you believe in your heart God's raised him from the dead, you are blessed.